Hello, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. I know the traffic is pretty bad these days, but thanks for coming because this is a very important talk. Because today's talk is about a thing called advanced glycation end products. It's a big word, but you'll soon know what this is. And this is so important because all of us know that diabetes is bad for you, right? Because you have high blood sugars floating around in your bloodstream. But nobody understands quite clearly how the high sugars hurt the body. And it's not just the high sugars that hurt the body. There are lots of other things that do the same thing as high glucose, and that's the advanced glycation end products. And that's what you're going to learn about today. So patients come to me and they tell me that, oh yeah, I'm keeping my sugar under control, so look how nice it looks. And yet they're having progressive disease. They're getting progressive eye problems, progressive coronary artery disease, calcification of the coronaries, the kidney functions deteriorating, and they're wondering why. And the problem is that the advanced glycation end products, which happen when your blood sugars are running high, are also happening because of other things that you're not even aware of. So when we treat diabetes, when we treat high blood sugars, it's only one part of the equation that causes advanced glycation end products. So that's my introduction to you, that the deleterious effect on your health is created by advanced glycation end products, which are not only produced by the glucose in your bloodstream. It's not only from diabetes, but there are a host of other things that also does the same damage. And tonight, by the end of this talk, you should fully understand which foods are going to do the same thing as high blood sugar without increasing your sugar. What you're cooking in your kitchen is doing to your food that is going to do just as bad and just as much damage to your metabolism as high blood sugar. See, we all think that we are now not going to get disease because our sugars are under control. But I'm telling you that this advanced glycation end products will radically change the way you will look at food and how you will cook food. This lecture is going to be one of many that will come up, and I hope you all enjoy it because it's very technical, but at the same time, I'm going to give you practical ways to handle this. So what does advanced glycation end products mean? Advanced glycation end products. Glycation, what is glycation? Glycation is when a sugar molecule attaches itself to another molecule. And the one you all know about is called hemoglobin A1C. That is hemoglobin attached to glucose. So that's how you know that it's glycated. And this is my hemoglobin A1C. It's elevated. The higher your hemoglobin A1C, the more your blood sugars have been running over the last few months, maybe about 2 months or 3 months. So the hemoglobin A1C is the classic example of an advanced glycation end product. So you're already familiar with it. You already know it. So let's look at more things. Glycerolaldehyde plus glucose plus lipids plus protein make AGEs. What does that mean? I'll explain that to you. Methyl glyoxyl plus protein plus lipid. Aldehydes plus protein plus lipid, big words. So basically, look, when you get protein attached to glucose, they don't just float around in the bloodstream. If there's too much glucose, the glucose attaches itself to protein. You have to understand that. And that is an advanced glycation end product. When you get aldehydes in the body that also attach to glucose, that's an advanced glycation end product. When you get methyl glyoxyl plus protein plus lipids, when they combine, they create advanced glycation end products. So proteins, lipids combine with glucose and produce these horrible substances. See, we're not supposed to attach sugar or glucose to protein. We're not supposed to attach it to lipids. But what we are doing to our lipids, what we're doing to our glucose, is causing advanced glycation end products. So the formation of these molecules, which are the attachments of glucose to all these other molecules, there are a number of pathways. The most familiar one is known as the Maillard reaction. So the Maillard reaction is amino that comes from a protein combines with glucose and produces a molecule that's now a combination of glucose and amino acids. So your protein in your body. Now you can imagine if a protein molecule is attached to glucose, is it going to be able to work normally? It can't. So the protein molecule, how does it work in your body? All your enzymes are proteins. All your structural, your collagen, your body's collagen, your building blocks in your body are all protein. Your protein cannot work properly. That means your enzymes don't work properly. That means your structure doesn't work properly because there's glucose attached to it. The molecules work because of the tertiary configuration of that protein molecule. It's three-dimensionality. If glucose is attached to it, that protein can't work properly. And then you're wondering why my enzymes are off, why I'm aging so fast, why my endothelium doesn't work properly. It's because glucose is attached to it. And now I'll show you more pathways. This pathway, which is known as the polyol sorbitol pathway, this one's a particularly bad one. This one creates fructose. And fructose, when fructose attaches itself to these protein molecules, it's really deleterious. It does that reaction 7 times faster and creates a lot more damaging oxidative stress. So fructose. And fructose can be generated from glucose as well. So your own body can make fructose. That is why in all my previous lectures I've talked to you about sugar is a no-no, fructose is a no-no. Because both of them cause advanced glycation end products. Now you know why sugar is bad for you. Now you know why glucose is bad for you. Now you know why fructose is bad for you. Because it combines with proteins in your body, which they shouldn't be combining with, and lipids in your body. So that brings me to lipids. Lipid peroxidation causes advanced glycation end products. What does that mean? So the lipids in your body, fats, when they get oxidized, then that oxidation, that's called lipid peroxidation, attaches itself to glucose as well. Now you have a combination, 3 bad boys all together, playing a game. It's oxidation of the lipids combined with the glucose, and then now you're going to get more advanced glycation end products. So glycation end products occur if your sugar level is running high. You all know that. That's diabetes, right? Or pre-diabetes. Or even what I call insulin resistance. That is going to cause the Maillard reaction when your sugar level is running high. You don't have to be a diabetic. You will notice that some patients are pre-diabetics. What does that mean? The A1C is only mildly elevated, but after they eat anything sugary, the glucose goes really high, but then comes back down again. So it goes over 200, but quickly comes back down. Are they in danger? Yes, they are, because that glucose should not have gone that high. So pre-diabetic patients, watch out, because you pre-diabetic patients who have only a mildly elevated blood sugar in the bloodstream, and the A1C is only mildly elevated, don't think you're out of the blues, because what happens is this. They eat a pie, and their sugar will really skyrocket. Now that sugar is floating around, attaches itself to oxidative lipids already, and will attach itself to proteins in your body. So they're making this reaction. They're making advanced glycation end products, which destroys your metabolism. So you don't have to have sugars high all the time. Your sugars can be high only in spikes. So what do I do with those patients? I give them continuous glucose monitoring. Why do you have so much heart disease, I'll say? Nobody can figure it out. I'll do continuous glucose monitoring, because that will show us that they're getting sugar spikes. So even though the A1C is not in the diabetic range, these high sugar spikes are probably causing advanced glycation end products, which in turn causes inflammation and deterioration of your body's health. So let's move on. So now you know that sugar, fructose, lipids all can cause this problem. So these products are very dangerous. Why? because they cause oxidative stress. Now that term, I want you to become familiar with this term. What that means is that a lot of free radicals are generated in your metabolism because it affects the way your mitochondria work. So when you get these advanced glycation end products, which are all these mischievous molecules, right? I told you they attach themselves to each other. They're floating on. They disrupt your mitochondrial function. When your mitochondria are supposed to work smoothly, the proteins, there's lots of proteins in your mitochondria. They're supposed to work properly. And when they don't work properly, when they don't work in conjunction with it, they're going to generate a lot of free radicals because it's like a dirty engine. That engine is going to make a lot of smoke. Well, in this case, they make a lot of oxygen-free radicals. These radicals cause oxidative stress. That, in turn, causes aging. It causes a whole bunch of problems. So oxidative stress is something you don't want. Inflammation. I already talked about inflammation many, many times before, that your body has inflammation, and chronic inflammation will cause all these chronic diseases. It causes dementia, coronary artery disease, hypertension, renal failure, premature blindness, peripheral vascular disease, also causes depression. And inflammation, of course, is worsened when you have advanced glycation end products. Apoptosis. Apoptosis means cells die. That means they're programmed to die, but they'll die prematurely. And you'll get premature aging with advanced glycation end products. You'll get cardiovascular disease. I already told you, you get coronary calcification and hardening of the arteries. Fatty liver. These advanced glycation end products play havoc with your liver too. They can cause a fatty liver. Neurodegenerative disease. Well, of course, because your brain is the one organ that has to work perfectly. The mitochondria in your brain cells have the highest concentration of mitochondria. It has to work perfectly. When the mitochondria are not working properly, what you're going to get? You're going to get degenerative disease. You can't have advanced glycation end products floating around in your brain and expect your brain to work properly. I'll show you. Hypertension. Hypertension is nothing but the lack of vasodilation of blood vessels. What makes them not vasodilate properly, and therefore they're vasoconstricted? Advanced glycation end products. I'll show you. Renal failure, because the tiny blood vessels in your kidneys don't work properly. Advanced glycation end products. Insulin resistance and pancreatic cell dysfunction. Well, obviously that's diabetes. So the damage that's done is to your mitochondria, reactive species. Now, nitrogen reactive species, what does that mean? These molecules, these AGEs, as I call them, they reduce your nitric oxide production in your blood vessels. So therefore, your blood vessels can't vasodilate properly. And because nitric oxide goes down, you get premature atherosclerosis. So nitrogen reactive species, you don't want that generated. Nuclear factor kappa beta stimulation. Now this, I'm going to come across this many, many times. And this will be pertinent when I talk about the receptors of the AGEs. So what this is basically, in a nutshell, there's a cell. It's got the nucleus. How does the nucleus know that, hey, I need to start making inflammatory molecules? That there's an infection going on, that there's something that's out of homeostasis. How does your chromosome know that? How does the nucleus know that? What message does it get? That message comes from a factor called NFK beta. So where does that come from? Well, what happens is that these AGEs, they go to the cell receptor, which is called RAGEs. Receptor for advanced glycation end products. Stimulates that receptor on that cell. That receptor sends a signal to the inside of the cell, which is this agent here. Releases that agent. That agent then goes to the chromosome of that cell and says, hey, I just got a message. We have inflammation going on. You better start making some bad boys. And then the nucleus, what does the DNA do? It starts transcribing bad boys. It'll start making cytokines, interleukins, tumor necrosis factor. The whole factory of protein manufacture changes to inflammation. See, I want to empower you all to understand at a cellular level what's happening. Because if you don't understand this, you're not going to take this seriously. That cell got the message because you gave it to the cell. How did you give it yourself? Because you let your AGEs go up, and the AGEs went to the RAGEs, and then the RAGEs caused the inflammatory pathway to be activated in your cell. Now your cell is on defense, and it only knows a few ways that it can react. It starts producing all these inflammatory molecules. Sirtuin and aging. So it turns off this, so you prematurely age. You want nice physiology. You don't want to get old quickly. So the chemicals interact here and make you age faster. Collagen loss, maturation of proteins in the walls. I already mentioned this to you. AGEs, when it attaches itself to your collagen, ladies, pay attention. If you want your collagen to be good, it's not from the outside. You want your collagen to be good, and you don't want wrinkles, you don't want AGEs. Because AGEs destroys the collagen structure. Because it is like having bricks and mortar, but in between you got all these horrible plastics in it. Well, the whole wall is going to crumble. And your smooth wall is going to become holy because it's going to have all these cavitations in it. Cavitations. That's what's happening when you get premature aging on your skin. You want good skin? You need to treat it from the inside. You don't need inflammation, you don't need AGEs. AGEs is the number one culprit that causes premature aging, which you can see visually on your skin. If you see excessive wrinkles on your skin, imagine what your tissues look like on the inside. Don't think that if you have excessive wrinkling on your skin, that you're going to have a perfect liver or a perfect kidney. It is the phenotype of what's inside you as well. Phenotype meaning the outside. So you've got to understand this. So collagen loss, elasticity loss. Elasticity loss. This is particularly important not only for skin, but your blood vessels. If your blood vessels are supposed to dilate, contract with each heartbeat, they lose elasticity, they can't do that. You're going to get hypertension? Of course you're going to get hypertension. And the diastolic pressure will go lower, systolic blood pressure will be higher. Earliest sign of atherosclerosis is loss of elasticity. And this is happening, by the way, in all our young kids. Because when I show you more slides, you're going to be horrified. I'm not making your day today. Because when you go home today, you're going to realize what a disaster this has been. Not only high sugar, but how we also do it ourselves, to ourselves, without sugar. Watch. 3 reactions. The pathways are sugar with the Maillard reaction, the polyol, which is fructose, lipid peroxidation. Where does the lipid peroxidation come from? Lipids are not supposed to get oxidized. What do I mean by that? Well, you'll know that. You take oil, leave it out for a while, it gets rancid. What is that? When it becomes rancid, it's oxidized. That's peroxidation. It can only do that if it has lots of unsaturated fat in it, which is unsaturated bonds. And which oil has unsaturated bonds? Right? All the PUFAs, right? The polyunsaturated fats, which are safflower oil, sunflower oil, corn oil, soy oil, canola oil, maize, all these vegetable oils. Saturated fats can't oxidize. That is why we're creating this perfect storm. We eat too much omega-6. You do your linolenic acid levels, and they are all over 30, and the government will say that over 40 is abnormal. Well, that's because they raise the rates, because everyone's high in omega-6 now. So they said, let's just make this the normal. No. If it's over 30, you have too much omega-6, too much linoleic acid. And it comes because of processed foods, and we allow everybody to use vegetable oils because they have the stamp of approval. No cholesterol, cholesterol-free, so it's very heart healthy, when it's absolutely not heart healthy. Absolutely not. And the lecture I'm giving next week is actually on oils. So I'm going to go through every oil and show you how these oils are creating lipid peroxidation. Then along comes the sugar or the fructose, and bingo, you're making lots and lots of AGEs. Do you get it? It's the bad lipids, bad sugars, right? And along comes fructose as well. And now you're making lots and lots of AGEs. So the Maillard reaction, I already mentioned, is a non-enzymatic reaction between sugar and protein. Sugar can also attach to nucleic acid. What is nucleic acid? It's a protein. So you expect your DNA to work normally? My DNA is not working properly. Well, of course it's not working properly because there's glucose attached to your DNA. Sugar and lipids, they're not supposed to combine, but they do. There you have a problem. So your DNA is bad. It causes improper protein function. Now, how does it do this? It goes to a receptor, which is on every cell in your body called RAGEs, right? There's receptor to AGEs, and it's present in every cell of the body. So, now, there's this agent here called methyl glyoxal. This one's a real bad boy. It drives that Maillard reaction really fast. So it causes that sugar and protein to attack. Now, where does this agent come from? I'm going to tell you where it comes from. It comes from the glycolytic pathway. That means too much glucose. You have a diet that is full of glucose, you're going to be making lots of this bad boy. Fermented foods also have a lot of this because the fermentation process is glycolysis as well. So it does have a lot of that production in it. And it's also derived from glycated proteins that later on break down. So if you have a high hemoglobin A1C, it does damage to you, but when that breaks down, it causes more methyl glyoxal production, which causes even more sugar plus protein interactions. Alcohol produces methyl glyoxal. Alcohol, because you know where alcohol gets converted to aldehyde. And I think I already showed you a slide that aldehydes can cause AGEs. So AGEs are caused by alcohol and sugar and fructose. Getting the picture now? So you have a high carb, high sugar diet, and you drink lots and lots of alcohol, and you eat tons and tons of high fructose corn syrup, processed foods, throw in lots of fruit as well, especially off-season fruit, sweetened fruit, especially juices. Fruits may be okay because they have the fiber in it, but juices, throw some juice in there, now you're cooking. You're making nice, high concentration of AGEs. All right. Now, the endogenous AGEs are also created when you have liver disease. So let's say you already have liver disease. You age prematurely. Why? Because your liver cannot clear out the AGEs that are in your food or the AGEs that you make anyway. That's why alcohol is really bad for you because it will increase your AGEs through its own production, but also decreases its clearance through your liver. Cigarettes absolutely cause more AGEs. They have toxic chemicals, including that methyl glyoxal that's found in smoke. And look at this last one, high omega-6 diet. You see how it all comes together? So we go out and eat lots of omega-6, which is polyunsaturated fats. We drink lots of alcohol, take a few smoke a little bit, destroy our liver, get a nice fatty liver. Why? Because we eat high glycemic index foods, eat frequently, develop insulin resistance. So you may not even be a pre-diabetic. You're cooking, you're making lots of AGEs. So you want to reduce the amount of AGEs in your body. The most important thing is keep your sugar level nice and low. That's why I do continuous glucose monitoring to people, because you may eat a donut, your sugar may not go up. You may eat a donut, your sugar will really, really skyrocket. Why? Because everyone reacts differently to the same amount of calories. You need to know because it may be microbial driven, it may be driven by your individual hormonal status. Who gets a spike? You need to know if you have cardiovascular disease, premature aging, retinal problems, chronic renal insufficiency, fatty liver, high blood pressure, high triglycerides, you need to know what your sugars are doing on a day-to-day basis with every meal. Why do you think I love fasting? Yeah, sugar doesn't go up with fasting. Done. End of story. Not only do you reduce your intake of AGEs in food, but you also sensitize yourself. You're not taking in sugar as well. That's why fasting is so healing. And we all need to do fasting. We all need to do intermittent fasting. AGEs from exogenous sources. Now, wait a second. You mean to say that you make ages in your body because of all the bad habits I talked about, but you also eat it? Yes, it's found in all the foods that you are all consuming these days. 70% of our food that we consume today is processed foods, and all of it contains AGEs. But lucky for you, only 10% of it is absorbed into your body. But we eat a lot of processed foods. So it ends up in your colon, where it affects the microbiome. And we don't even know what the microbiome is going to do with the AGEs right now. That's under investigation right now. But I can tell you it can't be good. Because if the bacteria in your gut are eating up all those AGEs that you put inside through your mouth, those bacteria down there, they got better things to do. And that population of bacteria will change. So you're changing the whole ratio of the good and bad bacteria in your gut. Just like how when you eat sugar, you create bad bacteria in your gut, so your whole metabolism changes. This is very important. Your microbiome, we talked about that before. So here you have AGEs. How? I grilled my beef, really blackened it, ate it, went into my intestines. Those poor bacteria, they suffered, because they had to eat up some of that AGEs, and the whole balance of your microbiome changed. Plus, some of those AGEs, 10% got absorbed into my bloodstream. Now I have a problem. So I was trying so hard not to make AGEs, didn't I? I watched what I eat, I watched my sugar and everything else, but then I ate a real blackened piece of meat. And I just undid everything. I just undid it. Continuous glucose monitoring. That's for you. So how can you inhibit the formation of these glucose and protein molecules? I'm just going to go through a few of them here first. These are the synthetic ones on the right side, metformin, NSAIDs, and these vitamins, B vitamins, and then flavonoids. And the natural ones are curcumin, alpha-lipoic acid, ginkgo, celery, red pepper, parsley, mint, green tea. They'll ring a bell with you. You knew that they're good for you. Now you know why they're good for you. And what is the mechanism? Now you know what the mechanism is. This thing called naringenin, what's that found in? That's found in citrus, for example. Hesperidin is also found in citrus. That doesn't mean you go out and juice. No. It just means that you eat a little bit of a lemon piece, or you eat a slice or two of orange, or some citrus, or grapefruit or something. Don't hog on it. Just take a little bit. That's all you need, just a little bit. So now we come to all these outside AGEs, the AGEs you're putting into you. AGEs are bad, don't make it in your body. AGEs are bad because you shouldn't be consuming them, but you're consuming them and not know about it. Look, I hope that this lecture is going to wake up everybody out there to realize that you may not want to make AGEs in your body and take every step not to make them, but you're consuming them every day and you don't even know about it. So let's look at those. So these are reused and reheated old foods. You take old food, you've put all the molecules together, they cooled off, now you reheated it, they're going to glue together. You're going to make AGEs. Sugar in the food, glucose in the food, fructose in the food, aldehydes in the food are all going to start combining with rancid fat, because when you reheat oil, what happens? You get peroxidation of oil, you're getting rancidity of the oil. So now when you reheat the food, you're creating the perfect setup to make AGEs. So I take this little thing, I put it in my pot again, and I reheat it. And my AGEs in it was, let's say, I'm just going to give you a number, it was 1,000 units of AGEs in it. I heat it up now, I've just bumped it up to 2,000. Do you see why I don't eat leftover foods? And why I don't reheat leftover foods? And then, packaged ready-made food. Anything that's ready-made, made in a factory, how do they make it? They heat it, right? They heat it. They bake it. They do something with it. Creates AGEs. And the thing about AGEs is they're delicious. That's the problem with AGEs. That's why you're consuming AGEs and you don't even know about it. Watch, listen, pay attention. Any food that contains high fructose corn syrup or sugar is already attaching itself to all the other molecules in it. So let's take a cookie, for example. It's going to attach itself to the protein in it. It's going to attach itself to all that fat. And which fat do they use, by the way? The bad ones, right? The puffers. So now that sugar, so that cookie is full of AGEs. High temperature dry cooking. Who does that? Processed food industry, right? High temperature dry cooking. How cookies made, how cakes made, how all these things, ready-made stuff made. They're all made with high temperature dry cooking. So now what's the dryness all about? I'm going to explain that to you now, okay? Exogenous AGEs, where you forcing the glucose and the protein and the lipids to combine, happens when you fry something, when you broil it, when you're blackening it, when you're charring it, when you're baking it, and all cereals. Children, what are we doing to them? So, cereals, baking, charring, blackening, broccoli, and frying destroys the food. Do not destroy food. These are unnatural. All of these are unnatural. Our predecessors did not have all this. Our bodies were designed so many millions of years ago without all this. This is modern man creating this. And when they create this, that's no longer food. These are products. These are not foods. This is not food. This is altered by us. We blackened it, we charred it, we baked it, we serialized it, we broiled it, we did frying to it. It's unnatural to fry. Just a couple of 100 years ago, it would have been so hard for them to fry stuff. Today, we can fry things just like that. Let's dive right into the bad effects of what you're consuming. What you're consuming will cause tissue damage, so that will cause you to have diabetes, cardiomyopathy, small vessel disease, renal failure, your gut flora will change, you'll get fatty liver from consuming these products. And we know that. Processed foods cause all these diseases. We know that. In the brain, you get leptin resistance. So what? So these AGEs go to the brain. Leptin is a molecule, a protein that's supposed to tell you, I'm full. I don't need to eat. I'm satiated. So you get leptin resistance. So you get hungry all the time. You consume AGEs. Look, think about it. Take a packet of chips. Doritos tells you actually you can't have less than one. You just keep eating. You can't stop. You cannot stop. It's amazing. It's so perfect. Because your brain never gets the turn-off signal. You eat these foods, you'll never be satisfied. But if I gave you half a stick of butter, I think you'll stop eating more because you'll get a signal in your brain, I'm done. But with these foods, which are not foods, these products, there's no turn-off signal because these AGEs have turned off those signals. So, your bones get osteoporosis. We have an epidemic of osteoporosis, but everyone's on a high calcium diet, vitamin D supplementation, taking the sun as well, and all these things, and still getting osteoporosis. What's going on? Because when you're inflamed, the body wants all that calcium, so it increases your osteoclastic activity because the body is preparing you to go to war because there's inflammation going on, inflammation. So it knows that it needs to store, so you get fat. It needs to be inflamed because you're going to go to a war. So in your liver, it causes inflammation, fatty liver. Today, what percent of the population has fatty liver? More than 50% of people have fatty liver. And yet at the turn of the century, it was less than 5%. Okay, now, what are the natural ways that I can bring my AGEs down? Now look at it. Vitamin E, but it should be in the form of natural foods that are rich in vitamin E. For example, all your nice vegetables and the fresh nuts, not roasted nuts. I'll come to that in a second. Curcumin, alpha-lipoic acid, parsley, and the flavonoids that are found in all these colorful condiments that we put with our food. Nature gave us these condiments to overcome what we're going to inevitably get some ages in our food. But combine it, do the right combination, put some celery on it, put some parsley on it, cook with some curcumin in it, and you will see that there's intelligence there. Mint and chamomile, of course, fine. Artificial ways that you can do to reduce ages include acetyl salicylic acid, metformin, and then there's a couple of compounds that I've listed over here, and I'll come to those in a minute. Because I'm sure people are going to ask me, well, I just want a pill. Well, I'll show you. You might be able to do a few things to help you, but it won't help you too much. It'll help you a little bit. So what are high in ages? The foods. All animal products are high in ages, unfortunately. Because those animals already have ages in them. Why? Because you put it in them. How? You fed them corn instead of fresh grass. You gave your chickens corn instead of giving them worms and letting them run around and pick whatever they can pick. So what's happened is that we eating sick animals. That's why today's meat is so high in ages. Because the meat itself is sick. You're eating a sick cow. Now, if you understood what I just said, would you want to eat a sick cow? Would you want to eat a cow with metabolic syndrome? No, because then you're going to get metabolic syndrome. But that's exactly what we do. You're eating sick chickens, and you're eating sick red meat. So they have too much omega-6 in them because they're all eating all the wrong stuff. They don't have enough omega-3. And they have a lot of ages in them, tons and tons of ages in that meat. And then what do we do with the meat? We broil it, we air fry it, we grill it, we roast it, we barbecue it, or we bake it. There you go. Now you've just increased the amount of ages. So first of all, it came loaded with ages, and now we just made it worse. The foods that are naturally low are high-carb foods. That means they only have carbs in them. There's nothing, that sugar doesn't have anything else to react with. But of course, I say don't eat that either, because I don't want you to get diabetes. Then your sugar will go up, and then you'll make ages in you. Do you see the dilemma we're in? So, let's say you take a root. It has lots and lots of sugar in it. It'll have very little ages in it. But then you eat too much of that, your sugar will go up, and then you'll make ages in you. See? It's a problem. Foods that are naturally high in water, they're very moist foods, will have very little ages in it. That's why I'm saying eat real food. Real food in its natural state. Lots of water in it, still there. And high in phytonutrients. Phytonutrients, that means different colors of foods. Yellow, purple, red, green, vegetables. You see, let me tell you something. You can have all the proteins in the animals, but all these other vegetables, they are medicinal. Because they have flavonoids in them. They have polyphenols in them. That's why you got to have your protein, whatever you're going to have, but you got to have your veggies with it. Because that's the medicine to offset the damage from the other meat. Do you see? You need the combo. Raw, uncooked vegetables are fantastic. They have hardly any ages. So let's look at some aging levels. I'll show you that in a way. So what happens with this aging is we cook in our kitchen. And we unknowingly are creating ages, and we're destroying our food. But it's good for us because it kills bugs. It increases the flavor of the food, and it makes it easier for us to digest the food. So we should cook food. But the factors that affect what happens to the food is humidity. Now pay attention here, because this is all of you in your kitchen. Humidity, the temperature at which you cook your food, the pH, and antioxidants that you cook it with. Wet cooking is preferred, because I already told you, moist. When you have moist cooking, poaching, stewing, braising, steaming, very good. Anything that's moisture cooked is going to have very little ages in it. The other thing, remember, because it's moist, what's the highest temperature of water you can go to? 212. 212, you're done. You can't go higher than that. You're done. That's how nature planned it. Nature did that for you. Protected you. Oh, but I need 420 degrees. So frying in fat and oil, avoid it. Even shallow frying and deep frying. You got to avoid that. Because the temperature, look, you all know that a reaction, you want this reaction to occur quickly, what do? Increase the temperature. And this is exactly what we're doing when we're frying your foods. You're increasing the temperature. Too much. Unnaturally. The only time nature will see that is when you incinerate a body. That's the only time it'll see such high temperatures. So the higher the temperature, the more AGEs you're going to manufacture. You keep your temperature down. The longer you cook the food, the more AGEs you'll also produce. High humidity produces less AGEs. pH. How can I adjust the pH of my meat or fish or chicken? I marinate it with lemon and vinegar. Come on, I knew about that. You knew about that. You've all been doing it, but you didn't know why you were doing it. But now you know that you will never cook food again without marinating it properly with lemon and vinegar. And the reason why? Because I'm teaching you today that changes the pH of the food. So remember, reactions occur based on temperature, how close they are to each other, and the pH. pH also affects all these AGEs. Yes, sir. It's very good, isn't it? So it's teaching you. So you want to put lemon, you want to put vinegar, and you want to marinate it, and then eat it, because that'll produce less AGEs in it. And the methods, look at the temperatures. Boiling something will take you to 100 degrees. Broiling will take you double, 225 degrees. Deep frying will take you to 180 degrees. Oven, air frying, 230 degrees. Why do you think I don't use my air fryer at home and I discourage it? Because it's dry, high heat. And when it becomes nice and brown and caramelized, or whatever that term is, delicious tasting, oh yeah, I didn't fry it in oil. I air fried it. Excuse me, you just made the same amount of AGEs. Not doing anyone a favor. Do not air fry your food, for goodness sake. Roasting takes you to 177 degrees. Too much. Microwaving food. Now, this was very interesting in my research. So when you microwave food, so here you got something. Let's say it's just a piece of meat, chicken. When you microwave it, how does it heat it? Is it from the outside? No. The microwave goes inside the chicken, and the water molecules inside start oscillating, and when they oscillate, they liberate the heat, right? So it's water. So what's the temperature? That's it. So surprisingly, we've all been taught to stay away from microwaves, stay away from microwaves, stay away. But actually, now, of course, you have to use microwave utensils. You cannot take stainless steel and put it in there. You can't take copper. Why? Because the microwave will heat the metal, and you have a problem, right? So here, when you have these utensils and you put the food in it, only the food will absorb the microwaves and will heat it up to that temperature. So I'll show you some numbers. So the do's are your meatballs, make them in a stew, because the stew temperature is only 212. Meat curry. Make a curry out of whatever you're going to make. Curry. I think those Indians had it right. The curry, making a curry. They had it right from the beginning. Making a chili. A chili is also okay. It's not going to go too high in temperature. And what is this sous vide? What is that? That's French, of course. What they do is they poach the meat, right? They put it in, they have a little temperature probe that goes in there, and it tells you when it's ready, but it's cooked in water, basically. Yeah, it's very nice. You got to buy that little machine. And then broiled meats has 50% less AGEs than grilled meat. Microwave meat has 50% less AGEs. That's interesting, isn't it? The microwave meat has 50% less AGEs in it than blackened or grilled and all that. The don'ts: do not dry. The dry processed ground meat, for example, hamburgers, sausages, they are very high in AGEs. Remember, these AGEs not only cause atherosclerotic disease, premature aging, all the things I talked about, but also promote cancer. Because to not have cancer, you need a perfect physiology, right? that physiology where these cells come along, your T cells, your B cells, your macrophages, they recognize cells that have gone bad and they take them out. They take them out. But that surveillance system is all dependent on the right stoichiochemistry of your molecules in your body to do recognition. They can't recognize. If they can't work properly, they can't recognize these abnormal cells. Promotes cancer. Deep frying, shallow frying should be avoided because you got the lipid oxidation and the temperature all together. Perfect storm. You're making lots of AGEs. Now you're cooking inside as well. You're getting cooked. Roasting produces AGEs. Grilling produces AGEs. We talked about that already. So let's look at some numbers. What is the daily recommended AGEs? Look, we all make AGEs, okay? As long as you're alive, you're all going to make AGEs, right? As long as you're alive, you're always going to make. And the body has a mechanism to get rid of AGEs, right? It has the receptors. They get rid of that. A little bit of inflammation comes in. And then you get your homeostasis. What is the definition of homeostasis? Homeostasis is that your body is allowed to swing within a narrow range. So you're always going to make some rages. It's just that when we make so much rages or we consume too much rages that our homeostasis gets knocked out. Can't handle it anymore. So you are allowed 15,000. Burgers and chicken nuggets, 7,800. You're already halfway there, my friend. Processed cheese, 8,700. That's a lot. Because remember, the fermentation process will generate AGEs as well. The older the cheese, the more AGEs are in it. So you can have some cheese, but just have a little bit. Breakfast bar, very healthy. First thing in the morning, I'm going to have a breakfast bar today. 2,200, I'm already well on my way there. Tofu, not that healthy. Not an advocate of tofu. It has a lot of AGEs in it. Butter, in 3 ounces, got 26,000 units. Margarine, 7,000. Of course, you don't want it because it's got trans fats. Peanut butter, 7,000. Look, all this is processed stuff. Peanut butter. Fried chicken, 8,000, one portion. Poached is less than 1,100. Rather poach your chicken. Raw chicken is less than 800. Of course, you don't eat it. But I'm just trying to show you that when you poach it, you're going to make some AGEs, but you're only going to make 300. But the moment you fry your chicken, now you've created 8,000 AGEs. Bacon fried with no oil, 90,000 in 3 ounces of it. Wake up in the morning, I'll have some eggs, throw in 3 slices of bacon, please. And you've already topped it and you're wondering why your skin looks like the Sahara Desert. Parched and... Okay, let's look at some more stuff. Beef. When you boil it, it's 1,538. When you roast it, it's 6,000. When you grill it, it's 7,400. When you broil it, it's 11,270. Now, I know some of you are taking pictures of this, but this is going to be on my video as well. You all will be able to see this because I really, really want you to look at these numbers and share them. The poultry is 1,100 only if you poach it. But if you pan fry it, it's almost 5,000. If you roast or barbecue, it's 18,000. So don't tell me that roast chicken is that good for you. Because it's going to blacken it, it's going to destroy the meat, it's going to force the Maillard reaction, and it's going to force AGEs in it. Because it's all unnatural. It's that oil, proteins, glucose is already in it, high temperature. You're done. And maybe you didn't marinate it. Now you're even worse off than before. Salmon. Salmon goes up to pan-fried 3,000, broiled 3,000, boiled 1,082. Why do you think I like salmon so much? When you go out, we have salmon, right? Eggs. Look what happens when you fry an egg. It goes up to 2,700. That's why you rather poach it, or if you make a loose scrambled egg, that's fine. And that too, take it off quickly. Don't let the egg get brown. The Maillard reaction is the browning reaction. Anytime you turn the food brown or black, you're done. You've hurt yourself. You've hurt yourself. Your food must not turn brown or black. Cheese, American cheese, 8,700, too much. Grains, now look at this. Whole wheat bread is only 36. Now, where is all the ages in bread? It's in the crust. Because the crust has turned what color? Brown. Biscuits, oven baked, 441. Chips, 865. High temperature. You ever go to one of these manufacturers, big ovens, high temperature, boom, boom. Fruits and vegetables, very low. All right? All of them are very, very, very low. Right? And even milk, for that matter, is low. Even whole milk, evaporated milk is slightly higher. Why? Because there's not much glucose there. There's galactose in milk, but that's the sugar that's in milk. So high temperature, very bad. Low moisture, very bad. So you want it moist, lower temperature. So broiling, grilling, frying greater than 177, not recommended. So 25% less ages in chicken if you steam it or poach it. That's how we're going to learn how to cook from now onwards. That's how we're going to learn how to make chicken. Slow cooking is better. For example, a crock pot, a pressure cooker, and of course the fancy French way, and then curry. Right? Curry. All learn how to make curry. Chicken curry, or whatever you want. Eggs, poach them, boil them. Pan fried creates ages, and lightly scramble your eggs and then take it off quickly. The moment the white is now no longer clear and it's become white, just take it off. That's what I do. I take it off quickly. I don't let it get brown. I don't crust anything. The crust is no good. Inside the bread is 10 times less ages. So you actually, if you know the aristocrats that were very smart in England years ago, what did they do? They used to make sandwiches, but they take the crust off. Remember? And then make these cucumber sandwiches. Right? Now, bread has high glycemic index. So make sure you don't eat too much bread. But at least you're not getting the ages there too. So there's always a trade-off. So if you have to have a sandwich because you're having high tea with the queen, well then sure, you can have it. Okay, not a problem. Quantity is very important. Dose is in the poison, right? So there you go. So whole wheat versus white flour, no difference. So don't think I'm eating whole wheat, so I'm getting so much better. No, all you're getting is the husks. The husks have more vitamins in it and some fiber in it. But as far as the sugar in it is still pretty much the same, and the amount of ages still pretty much the same. So whole wheat versus white bread. Quercetin added to bread reduces ages. I love that, because what that means is that if I'm going to make bread from now onward, I'm going to take a capsule of quercetin, which is a flavonoid, and just put it in while I'm cooking it, and I'm going to make less ages while the bread is being baked. Okay. Cheese, high fat and old aged cheese has more ages because of the pasteurization, long curing, aging time, more fat also in it. Older the cheese, old cheese continues to evolve, right? Old cheese gets older and older and cures. It makes more and more ages, unfortunately. Yeah. I do like cheese because they do have a lot of fermentation products in them which are nice, but you can't overdo it. Grains and legumes. So, what is this cooked pasta al dente? What does that mean? That means just don't overcook your pasta. Cook it for only 8 minutes, you'll generate less ages. 12 minutes is too much. Rice, less than 10 minutes. Instant pot, highly recommended. Not only kills the lectins, but also produces very little ages. Lentils should be soaked overnight and then moist cooked in your pressure cooker. So get a nice pressure cooker, get a nice instant pot, whatever. Learn how to use it, because that, I'm telling you, is your ticket to remaining healthy. Don't blacken your vegetables. Don't destroy your vegetables. Less ages in the roasted. Of course, we don't need to roast stuff too much, but okay, fine, you can grill it, but don't blacken it. Don't blacken it. When you start seeing charred stuff on the top, it's no good. And if you do see it, kind of take it off. Nuts, big one. Roasted almonds has high ages. Same with other nuts. Don't eat roasted nuts. What do nuts have? A lot of omega-6. What is that omega-6 doing when you heat it up? You're causing more peroxidation. And it's got some sugar in it. Yeah, you're creating glycation end products again. You want to eat nuts? Eat them raw. If they're sugar and honey and then roasted, that's even worse. Because now you've got all the ingredients in it, right? So your nuts, you should buy nuts. You can have nuts. I don't mind nuts. Don't eat too many almonds. They have a lot of oxalates in them. So have some pistachios and some other nuts that you want. Fine. And then just buy them raw and then just roast them in small batches without any oil on them, just lightly, and then take them right out. That's all you need. But don't roast them till they're all brown and nice and caramelized. Definitely not. Or eat them raw. That's the best. High-fat spreads like cream cheese, mayonnaise have high AGEs. Don't use mayonnaise. You don't need mayonnaise. Cream cheese. Prefer ghee or refined coconut oil. Why? And look, I said refined coconut oil. It's the only time I say refined as opposed to extra virgin. Because refined coconut is more healthy than extra virgin coconut oil. So you use ghee or refined coconut oil because those are saturated and they don't have those empty bonds that can interact and become oxidized. So if they don't get oxidized, they can't participate in AGEs production. Vegetable oils are high because of too many problems in the purification process. Do you know an oil processing plant looks like a petroleum plant? So bad. And you want to eat a product out of that? No way. Dry heat prepared crackers, chips, cookies, terrible. But they have great taste. And you know what they also do, the manufacturers? Let me tell you something else they do. They make AGEs separately and they add it to the food because it tastes so good. Can't resist it. So they not only do they make AGEs while they're making it, but they add it also for your enjoyment. Methyl glyoxal, I told you already, 250 times faster than glucose in making this reaction. Glycolysis produces a lot of that. So just stay away from sugar. Just stay away from sugar. Look, when you we have all these conferences and I talk to people. And they talk about this pathway, that pathway to become sick, this pathway. And then everyone has their say in it. And then at the end I say, so what's the solution? Tell me one thing that will help all these pathways. Fasting. Because when you fast, it's amazing. Because the rest of the day you're not in glucose metabolism anymore. If you're not in glucose metabolism, you're not in glycolysis, you're not going to make methyl glyoxal. Why? Because by about 1 o'clock at the latest, I want to be ketotic. So at least 4 or 5 hours a day, I want to go into ketosis and then have my dinner. But you want to be a little ketotic. You're supposed to do that. That's why I still advocate my fasting program, 18-6 to start off with, or once a day meal. Because it solves so many of our problems. Because one of the problems that you all have, unfortunately, is that you neither have the luxury of finding the food that you really should be buying, because industry no longer gives it to you, so choices are limited. Try to find some decent foods these days. You can't. You can't. So you're forced to buy it. And then number two, when you bring something home, you don't have time to cook or I need to marinate this with this, or I need to add the following condiments. So it's better just to go out and get something, drive through and bring it home. So what I'm saying is that we have a huge problem. So if you can't source your food right, and if you can't prepare it right, then eat less. Often. Gets rid of that poison. So you're just going to eat once a day? But when I sit down, I don't calorie count. I don't look at portion size. Try to eat once a day and you're done. That's it. Solves a lot of problems. So, and by the way, that's been shown not only to reduce all these chronic diseases, but it also is a longevity method to live long. And it's anti-aging as well. So this is just a slide to show you how, collagen, because that seems to attach a lot of importance for a lot of people, that you want good collagen in your body, get rid of the AGEs, and your skin will drastically improve. Endothelial cells, that's all about your blood vessels, and you are as old or young as your blood vessels. The binding of RAGEs is not only to AGEs, but also to beta amyloid and other DAMPs. So wait a second, I just want to talk about DAMPs a little bit. DAMPs means damage-associated molecular pattern molecules. So we've just identified AGEs in the bad food, okay, the way you cooked it. But you don't think it's got other molecules in that food that send a signal to you because they are damage-associated molecular patterns? I told you, the cows you're eating are already sick. You don't think they already have these? And they get into you. So they stimulate your DAMPs, your damage-associated molecular patterns. They attach themselves to the RAGE, which is the receptor, and the receptor causes behind it nitrogen reactive species, oxygen reactive species, NAPA, the KF, kappa stimulation, causes all this inflammation. So be careful what you eat. Found in endothelial cells, macrophages, monophytes, or every cell in your body is affected by RAGEs. Now, mice that have no receptors for RAGEs have no cardiovascular disease, no Alzheimer's, no diabetes, they don't even have cancer. What does that tell you? That tells you that RAGEs is the pathway by which a lot of damage in your body is happening. Now, we're not mice. We can take mice and we can make them without RAGE, the receptor for the AGEs. We can make them like that. And they have no disease. That should tell us something. It tells us that AGEs are really the problem for all these things. All right. Next. RAGEs, in small amount, these receptors, they take the bad out. And so in small amounts, they protect you, but when they're overwhelmed, they can't do that. There's a lot of RAGE in the lungs. I'm mentioning this to you all because you can consume AGEs, you can make AGEs, you can breathe in AGEs as well. How? Well, sitting here, I'm grilling this stuff and I'm inhaling all that stuff. What am I doing to my lungs? I'm sending AGEs down into my lungs because that's all vaporizing in here. So be careful what you're inhaling. That's why I tell people that when they're cooking with all those vegetable oils at high temperature and they're inhaling all that oil, and there's special ways in which they're cooking or they're shallow frying and all that oil you get that extractor put in. Get rid of all that stuff. And all that smoke you shouldn't be around either, because you're going to inhale it into your lungs and you'll get pulmonary fibrosis. I'm telling you, I've seen too many cases of pulmonary fibrosis. And it's from women, basically, who've been in the kitchen a lot, cooking all the time over a hot stove with oily products at high temperature. So I don't like it. It's very bad. So RAGEs results in all these bad things inside your body. Adhesion molecules, E-selectins, vascular adhesion. I put all that in because I'm a cardiologist. It's to do with my blood vessels. RAGEs makes my blood vessels go bad. And increased endothelial permeability. It induces oxidized LDL. A lot of people have talked about this in the literature. So what it does is RAGEs causes your LDL molecule to become oxidized. When your LDL molecule becomes oxidized, now that LDL is bad. So if you don't have oxidized LDL and your LDL level is high, you know what I think about that. I think we need to look carefully to see whether you have oxidized LDL and whether you have small, dense LDL. And then decide whether you need treatment specifically directed to cholesterol or not. If you have oxidized LDL, it's not the LDL. The LDL got oxidized. Get rid of the source of the oxidation. If you have small, dense LDL, find out the cause of why you have small, dense LDL. And in my opinion, where I'm seeing a lot of this is coming from is the gut, where you have what is known as endotoxin, or stuff from the gut getting into your bloodstream, displaces some cholesterol from the LDL molecule, creates small, dense particles, and you have inflammation, which is a topic for another day. But it's not just the total LDL that matters. Nitric oxide production I talked about earlier on. Your hemoglobin A1C is a typical example of a RAGE, right? But it's only one aspect of it, glucose related, not lipid related, not methyl oxide related, methyl glycosylate related. So it's just one way that you'll be able to see the effects of ages is by looking at your A1C. Now, this is a slide that I actually made today because I wanted you all to go home with something. Oh, doc, all that's fine. I go, just give me a pill. So there it is. Take a pick. So all of these actually do help to reduce your AGEs production. All of them. They're also found in nature. So you see I put some spices at the bottom. Look, it's no chance that foods come with these condiments on it, that you're taking celery and you're sprinkling it over it, or you're taking lemon juice and you're putting it over it, or you cooking with turmeric or curcumin, that you're cooking with it, or black pepper. It's no coincidence. All that is perfectly worked out science by our ancestors. They already knew it. That if I'm going to eat this, it's got AGEs in it, I have something that's going to reduce the AGEs. Combined, right combination. What's that at the bottom? That's green tea, chamomile, and other types of fancy teas, and all those things are good. There's your turmeric right there. Parsley, very good for you. These tablets you can, of course, buy as well. Take-home points. To reduce AGEs, kind of complicated, and I know I gave you a lot of science today about everything, but it all comes together. Get your sugar level down. If there's any doubt, do continuous glucose monitoring to make sure that your sugars are not spiking up, because every time they spike up, they're causing AGEs. Avoid alcohol, because the alcohol will create the production of AGEs. Avoid vegetable seed oils, because that's where you get the lipid peroxidation. See, 3 golden rules right there. No vegetable seed oils, avoid alcohol, keep your glucose levels under control. For exogenous sources from outside, don't eat foods that are ready-made. Anything you need to open to get to, don't eat it. If it's a packet, a box, whatever. If it came in a packet, box, got a barcode on it, it's already probably full of AGEs. Avoid foods that contain a lot of AGEs, ready-made foods, processed foods, refined products. Learn how to cook your own food yourself properly. Source your food right as well. Go for grass-finished meats and organic fish, chicken, eggs, and all those things. And remediate yourself with bioflavonoids. Learn about these herbs. Add them to your foods as much as you can. Don't smoke. Vent your kitchen. And do some fasting. Oh, don't forget the fasting. And I still think that it's one of the best things we all can do to improve our health. So I think I've ran over my time, so I'm going to have to stop right at this point. But thank you so much for coming out tonight, and I hope you all learned something about your food and your body. All right, thank you. Honey is full of fructose. Not a good idea. And when you heat honey, that makes it even worse. So I'm not in favor. Now look, if someone is perfectly healthy otherwise, perfectly healthy, there's no health problem. They can have some honey once in a while, it's not a problem. But if you're diabetic, if you're overweight, you've got a fatty liver, you have high blood pressure, you have coronary calcification, your metabolism's already off, that means you already have AGEs in you, right? Whether that AGEs is from high sugar only, or it's because you have lipid peroxidation, or whether you have leaky gut, or whether you have dysfunctional microbiome, doesn't matter. That person should stay away from fructose, because fructose is involved in causing a fatty liver. Fructose causes AGEs 7 times faster, and fructose causes leaky gut. So honey is nice, but should be used medicinally once in a while. You know, you're sick. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a vitamin B1. It's like thiamine, and that prevents that three-dimensional stoichiochemistry of your AGEs. It kind of makes them better so that they can then do their job. Because it's the dysfunctionality as a result of the AGEs that those protein molecules can't work properly, they don't send the signals properly. Thiamine comes along and helps to repair that. So it's basically a type of thiamine. Even the other ones, they are B3, I think it is. So if you want to be healthy, you should take methylated B12 complex. Methylated B12 complex. If you take one of those every day, you're going to get very good results because you'll have all your Bs, and your Bs are all good because they help you with AGEs. Your ability to methylate it is going to be the most important thing because that's what's going to change your genetic expression and your epigenetics. Your epigenetics, how your genes respond. Because remember, all this is why you want your genome to start expressing good molecules, right? And what turns those genes on and off is methylation. And which chemicals are involved in that are the Bs. You need lots of Bs to do that. And you need methylation, so the methyl group. So the Bs and the methylation, now you've given your chromosomes what they need to change their expression, the epigenetics. Epigenetics is your ability to adapt to your environment. You want to adapt to your environment? You need methylation. You want to adapt to your environment? You need epigenetics to kick in, where your genetic expression changes. In this situation, it's different. My expression is different in this scenario. You need this. Yeah. Okay. When you use sourdough bread, basically the fermentation process has gotten rid of a lot of the lectins. That's why sourdough bread is better and healthier because there's less lectins. But when you look at the actual content of AGEs in the white portion, they're still low. Okay. It's the crust that has more AGEs in it. Okay. Yeah. But again, it's not a lot. You see those numbers? Yeah. They're nothing. All you have to do is one chicken nugget and you've already blown your whole loaf of sourdough bread. Ghee is very healthy. Ghee does not cause cancer. And you're always going to find unsubstantiated nonsense. For example, at the last American Heart Association meeting, there was a poster article saying that intermittent fasting increases your risk of having a heart attack by 90%. Number one, it was a retrospective study. Number two, it was not published. Number three, it wasn't peer-reviewed. So all these things are major. That means you just look at that and just throw it away. It just doesn't. So, but MSNBC and all these other channels ran with it. No, that's absolutely not true because you respond. In fact, it's the opposite. Now, it is true that as you get older, you want more protein. So if you go into the intermittent fasting, you need to increase your protein intake. So you need lots of proteins, okay? Someone like you, you should be on nothing less than 70 grams or 80 grams of protein a day. So you've got to make sure that when you're sitting down to eat, you're eating your proteins, right? But older people respond to intermittent fasting very well. In fact, they're the ones who need it because they detoxify themselves from everything that has happened. They get ketogenesis. Ketogenesis, why do you want ketogenesis? Because you want dual fuel. You want to be able to go from glycolysis to ketogenesis. Ketogenesis will cause autophagy, mitophagy, stem cells mobilization. People who do intermittent fasting, their retinas get better, their visual acuities get better, their reflexes get better, the brain-derived neurotropic factors go up, the fatty livers go away. All inflammatory markers go down, diabetes goes away. You can't beat all these things. And whoever's saying that only occurs in young people and not in old people, I think that they are 110% wrong. Totally wrong. There's no data. These people come up with these statements based on maybe they saw something somewhere and then they put it out there. It's absolutely not the case. Very good. I'm going to answer that in two ways. The first thing is you're as old as your arteries. So you should really look at a calcium score in your heart. If your calcium score is high, that means all your blood vessels, your physiology, everything at some point has been bad and maybe still bad, and you need to work on that. That means is yes, you are getting old prematurely, because it'll tell you that your calcium score is 400, and for your age, it's equivalent to somebody who's 82 years old, and you may only be 62. So it is giving you some sort of age, but that's an arterial age. Now, if you want to look at physiologically, how old am I? Right now, there are ways to do it. It's called the epigenetic clock. So there's a test that can be done. It's actually available on the internet. So it's epigenetic aging. And if you do that, they do a blood test, and they look at what we were talking about before, epigenetics, which is your genes. So it looks at your genes, and it looks to see, because as we get older, our genes change. So don't think that right now your genes function. You were born with the same genes, and you still have the same genes, but the expression has changed over time. And the degree of that change from your baseline is an indication of how old you are. So there are ways that they can do that. I don't know exact cost. I think it must run $400 or $500, but it is available. It's called an epigenetic aging clock. You can actually send off for that and do it. As a general rule, once it's there, it's not going to come down because it's already in the wall. It's there already, but you can prevent it from getting any worse, number one. Number two, associated with the calcium in the arteries, there's also some soft plaque. And soft plaque is what? It's made up of LDL that has been liberated by the macrophages that died over there. And if you have lots of fat over there, then that contains lipopolysaccharides. So your T cells and B cells are making reactions against it. So that's bad. That means that that plaque can crack because there's inflammation in it. And when it cracks, you're going to get a heart attack because a big blood clot can form on it. So yes, your calcium will not go away. Number two, make sure that you have an anti-inflammatory lifestyle and an anti-inflammatory diet so that the plaques don't crack. You can live with that calcium, just don't die from it. You'll die from it if it cracks, and it's going to crack if there's inflammation. You can do a plaque analysis, which we only just started doing now, where you do the CT scan, you get your calcium score, and you can tell what your calcium score is, but it also, you can do the CT angio to look at plaque characteristics. So if the plaque is soft here, hard here, soft here, the more soft you have, the more inflammation, the chances of that plaque cracking. You really need attention then. But if you are mostly just calcium and it's all hard, then you're fine. As long as it's not narrowing the artery, you're fine. It's not going to crack. Because remember, the calcium that you got has two significances. One, it mustn't crack, and that's related to inflammation and the fattiness of it. And number two, it mustn't encroach into the lumen. So let's say if it's encroaching into the lumen, you're going to get chest pain, right? When you walk, you get angina, you get a stress test, and it's positive. But many people with coronary calcium, their stress tests are fine. They pass. They're not having any chest pain. So what they are at risk of is rupture. That's what you're at risk of, rupture. And that's related to inflammation, fat in the plaque.
You do test for soft plaque,
Mm-hmm. We do a CT scan here, and it's called plaque analysis. Unfortunately, because of the wisdom of our insurance companies, they don't want to pay for it. It runs just over $1,000. You got to source your turmeric properly, because there are some rumors that some of them were full of lead and other toxins in it. So just be careful where you're buying it from. So what we do is we just buy a whole bag of turmeric. And then that's the cheapest way. I don't get capsules of turmeric. I would advise that best thing to do with turmeric is you go to an Indian store down there on OBT. It's called Patel Brothers. And they have, I kid you not, you can pick up a whole bag like this for a couple of bucks and you're done. Patel Brothers has good quality turmeric. Yeah, it's really nice. And then just take a quarter teaspoon, put it in your water or whatever you want, or cook with it. Yeah.
Well, for whatever it's worth, eating turmeric or black pepper increases the absorption of
Yep.
the turmeric 2,000%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is why whenever you use turmeric, you use black pepper too. So we make a curry. We make a curry, and they put red pepper, cayenne, turmeric, curcumin, black pepper. You got it. Make a curry out of it. There's so much science behind this. It's good stuff. If you liked this video, here's one that I would recommend. And if you want to see my latest video, please click here.